Welcome to Lift, where we lift business entrepreneurs, leaders, and communities. I'm your host, Sarah Layson, and I'm here with Steve Simon, who is Meredith Besna's father, for those of you that follow that do know Meredith. She was on one of our first episodes, and she obviously is a dear, dear friend of mine, which is how I met Steve. But for those that don't know Steve, he is an incredible leader. He's a mentor. He was the VP of Human Resources at Aquaglass for many, many years. Served in the community in Adamsville, and also I believe you launched the church and are a leader in the church. Is that right?
God pulled us together, but yeah. Yes, we've been there from the start.
So just an incredible human that we all could learn from, and have a lot of wisdom I know that you're going to share with us today. Can you give me a little bit about your background in leadership, and then we'll get started with some of the questions?
Well, very fortunate to have opportunities in college. I was stuck with being the president of our social club 2 years in a row, and I don't know I accepted the second time, but did. And it just seemed like wherever there was an opportunity, I took advantage of that. Wound up straight out of college with Boardroom Incorporated, which was parent corp of Fred's and Vic's discount stores, and became part of the HR department with absolutely no experience, except that I interviewed with the president, and the president thought that's where I needed to wind up, which was just heaven sent.
Yeah.
That was a wonderful experience, and had some great teachers and mentors there. And then on CNF, Coleman and Family Manufacturing in Hopkinsville, Kentucky. And I started by two incredible individuals and got my opportunity there. One of the funny things was that we were going to call my position, the home office was in Grand Rapids, Michigan, and we were going to call my position in Hopkinsville plant, Human Resources. And that was the same name of the state unemployment agency. So people didn't know why the guy from the state unemployment agency was running the HR department of their plant, which we constantly had to work through that. One of the neat things. And then it wound up in Adamsville, Tennessee, which I had a friend there. And the recruiter said, yeah, we've got a manufacturer there we'd like you to talk to. And I said, well, I know they have a gas station and a school, but they actually have a place I could go to work. Because a friend that was teaching in the high school there, a college friend, and the opportunities there broadened, and with opportunity. And one of the things that I learned from my dad was not only hard work, and mom too, but that when you signed up for the badge and if you had the gun, then you did everything that you could to make that business be successful. Mm-hmm. So even before I had a portion of stock awards, that notion of the business was mine, even though it was owned by a family. That notion was and lived with me that I needed to do everything I could to help the business succeed, because I got a regular paycheck. Why wouldn't I?
Yep. Well, the ownership in that is so powerful. Mm-hmm. Whether you own the company or not.
That's right.
You are a part of the team that makes that company successful, right? I love that mentality. I think that's a great lesson for a lot of people. Because now a lot of entrepreneurs that I know, and we'll get into your backstory, but a lot of entrepreneurs I know want immediate equity. And there's a thing called sweat equity.
Amen.
And taking ownership, and you can learn a lot with sweat equity. And you got to learn through the failures and the wins, and quite frankly, the journey.
One of our great presidents, Jimmy Carter, and some people would want to argue whether he's a great president or not, when he left office, he continued to help those, the least of us. Now you go to Matthew 5 and you watch the guy, but when you think about all that he did to put into Habitat for Humanities, mm-hmm. it pulls in what you said, the sweat equity. And they require that from everyone that has a home. Mm-hmm. You have to have hours in a home before yours, and in your home, and home after that, so that you're just not helping yourself, but you're helping others.
You're teaching others.
And isn't that the ownership that we want?
Yes, and it's the life lessons that we all need.
Amen.
It's not an easy button, is what I like to say. I want to talk a little bit about your parents. What lessons did they teach you, either through their words or example, that shaped the leader you are?
My mom was a very quiet woman and didn't like attention from anyone. Her word was her bond, and when she gave it, there wasn't any moving that. Fabulous cook. Taught her sons that our job is, if we were married, was to never compare our wife's cooking to her cooking. That was impolite. It was a wonderful thing, those little life lessons. So we had a garden, and Dad was a full-time employee at different plants and hospitals, and it was an incredible machinist, a veteran from World War II, and saw more action than anybody wants to see in Germany and in France. And he had 2 Purple Hearts. There was a story I'll try to make quick, that they're marching across, he and the troops that he was with were marching across the French countryside, and they came upon a home with 3 elderly women, and that was the only people present. And when they came upon them, the women offered them a loaf of bread. And he said, we were so famished. And he said, the thing I'm ashamed of, and he was involved in combat, pulled the trigger a lot, and he said, I was ashamed that we took the other loaf of bread, and I didn't know if they had anything. They left barter, they left cigarettes. But if you think about all that conflict, marching into Berlin, going through what they had to go through, and he was embarrassed that his integrity and his hunger caused him to eat what he thought may have been their last loaf of bread.
Wow.
And didn't know if they had more.
And that stuck with him.
Yeah.
What a gesture from them. I mean, I get it. They were asking for something in return, but to give up food. I say this a lot. In some of the hardest, most difficult, trying times, there's always somewhere a beautiful moment that I believe are God moments, right?
Absolutely.
That show up to tell you that humanity still exists, even in the hardest of situations.
In every way. So we moved on the farm, the 30-acre farm, before my 16th birthday, and we learned what it was to work really hard in the garden and animal husbandry, doing all the things that we did to keep that place going. And Dad was a part-time farmer, but the cattle didn't know they weren't supposed to be fed in the morning, and the chickens didn't know, and the hogs didn't know, and the goats didn't know. We took care of everything and went about the rest of the day.
Yeah.
And then when we got home, us from school, him from work, we did it again. We did it on the weekends. And there was one memory of him being so hot, Sarah, in that Alabama sun out in the field, and we were running fence and barbed wire, and he got so hot he couldn't continue it. So instead of going home, instead of going and getting some aid and resting, he rested all right. He lowered the tailgate on the truck, got under the meager shade that offered, rested up, and then we went back to work. So my brother and I have that work ethic from Mom and Dad that when you sign up to do something, you do it.
Yep.
And you do it to the best. I was in Klamath Falls, Oregon, part of a greenfield startup, and I had an emergency appendectomy. And the friends we'd grown to love and cherish, one was a surgeon, and he and his wife not only looked after me in the hospital, and Pam's back at home in Tennessee, they took me to their home to recuperate. And then I showed back up on Monday at work like I was supposed to. Because you said, what did parents teach me? You go to work.
Yeah, because nothing's going to get handed to you. And
I had a responsibility.
You talked about the animals and scheduling. You taught them the expectation of the schedule, right? Like, so a lot of people, I was actually having this conversation this morning. You can do multiple things if you don't let the world dictate your schedule.
Yes.
You have to dictate your schedule, and the world will, around you can comply. Unless you're a full-time employee, obviously that's a different. You're an HR person, but I'm an entrepreneur.
That's right. Exactly.
So, what would you say from your father? What was one thing you would say outside of hard work that he's also instilled in you that you've taken that as a father?
Well, I would take that from my mom and my dad. That when you gave your word, you followed up on your word.
No matter what. All right. Was there a particular coach, teacher, or family member or mentor who saw something in you before you ever saw it in yourself?
Yes, 2 in fact, both of them on volunteer basis. One was a gentleman named Chip that would take his time not only to teach our class at church, but also every year to he'd take a week of vacation, his vacation, and go with us on some mission trip. He would take the bus, he would have it full of kids from the church, and we would go to Statesville, North Carolina, or we would go to Virginia. We would go someplace to either have a Bible class, tell people about the Lord, and he always had us myself and whoever the young lady was, and sometimes very young, we would have the black communities. Well, what I learned was I cherished being in the black communities. I can still remember the ladies who'd be sitting on the porch and said, "Child, come up here and tell us about Jesus." And wasn't greeted that way everywhere else.
Wow.
And it was wonderful. It was transformative. It was one of those things that you're going, yeah, life is good.
What time period was this in?
That would have been in the late 60s and early 70s.
Wow.
Yeah.
So what, in terms of success, when you were that age, what did that look like for you? What did success
I don't know that that was the case until I went to a church school, my brother and I both, and Mom and Dad could barely afford that. And I would call it a blue-collar church school where we were taught Bible every day. And we had so many of our peers that were talking about college. I had one of 4 grandparents that could read or write, and that was my grandmother on my mom's side. The rest of them could not, had not gone to school. My family didn't know about college. And yet Walt Birch, who was one of the kindest men, most thoughtful men, creative men, was one of my scout leaders, Boy Scout leaders. And he looked at me my senior year and said, "You know your college material, right?" I never had anybody, even at school, to tell me that. And with that, I took the extra boost. And I don't know if my brother, who's younger than I, would have gone to college. He followed me to the same school. But because someone believed in me, that knew about it and that saw something in me that said I could, I did. And we were the first on that side, my brother and I, first on that side to ever darken the doors of a college.
Well, and you're bringing in a lot of, I want our listeners to understand this history and perspective of time periods, right?
That's
why
right,
you were talking about, the black and white community and interacting in that community, and the same thing with going to universities. Like these were times when you didn't have a lot of the university wasn't an opportunity, right? And communities were not mixing, and you and I talk about that a lot as leaders, like being the conduit for I tell everybody I want to be a bridge. Like that's something that's so important to me for all communities, all people, right?
It should be.
And you're bringing in a lot of time periods that I want the audience to understand that these were things that didn't typically happen. Right?
No, absolutely.
And you were already a trailblazer, is what I'm trying to say. God gave you that trail.
Absolutely.
But
we just didn't know that.
It.
You
didn't know it at the time.
Yeah.
Right.
We weren't aware of it. We were in the middle of it. We were just taking that step and putting the next step together and the next step together. College, 4 years of college at a private school cost me $10,000.
Wow.
And there were people buying new vehicles for their children rather, that I was peers with, that didn't go to college, and those vehicles turned into rust and vehicles that didn't always run. And yet we couldn't afford that car, but we were afforded college because we borrowed against the federal student loan, the best $10,000 I've and my brother have ever borrowed in our life.
Wow. I tell people, I love that you brought up the vehicles. Being an entrepreneur, how we spend our money matters. Mm-hmm. And you talked a little bit about your parents being frugal. We talked about that earlier. And I tell a lot of entrepreneurs, I'm like, you're driving and your assistants, like you're spending $50,000 on a car, and you could have an assistant assisting you, right? It's like where you spend your money matters.
Yes.
And who you spend your money for matters.
In every way.
Yeah. All right, let's switch gears a little bit and talk about early career education. You finished college, immediately entered the workforce, from what I've told. Mm-hmm. I heard it was like the day after. I don't know if that was exaggeration or true.
It was almost a forced. I got the job before I graduated. Went for the interview in March and graduating in May, and was offered the job. And he said, "When can you start?" And once again, the president of the company. And I said, "The day after I graduate." And he goes, "No, you're just getting out of college." Well, I didn't know what getting out of college meant. I mean,
you're like, it's on to the next.
New experience. and he insists that I take 2 weeks to do things before showing up. And I reluctantly agreed with him that I wouldn't show up for 2 weeks.
Okay.
But I was chomping at the bit. I have a job. I need to go.
Yeah, you wanted to get to the
I have
workplace.
friends who I dearly love were extremely resentful for me having a job before we graduated. And once again, I knew that God was shining on me.
Yeah.
I just didn't know how fortunate I was.
Well, it's funny. It's the same thing happened with you going to college. Mm-hmm. Somebody showed up and said, your college materials. Somebody showed up hired you, right?
Yes.
And then God gave pause for 2 weeks to say, no, you're not going until you're going to take 2 weeks.
Well, there's another part of that story. The president was appreciative of the fact that a guy had been a roommate of mine that had been working for Baddour for a year, and he went to him and said, my friend went to the president and said, if there's one person I know that's going to help this company, it would be Steve Simon. You need to talk to him.
Wow.
I wouldn't know those words to say.
Yeah.
And that friend of
Transformed.
mine, my fellow student, said, so whenever we get a chance, Sarah, we need to help people around us.
Yes, always.
Yeah.
You're a servant leader at heart.
Well,
Always have been.
isn't that it?
Yep.
There's a grand book called The Goal, and everyone should read it. It's an old book. And it's about a manufacturing guy running a plant. They have a bottleneck. He can't figure it out. He keeps working at it. Finally figures out the bottleneck. It's a wonderful book. And I'm sorry if you haven't read it and you're going to read it, but I'm going to caution here. I'm going to tell you. When he gets to the end of the book, he realizes the only thing that's important for us is service to others.
Yeah. And it's so
The
true.
goal.
It is.
Yeah.
But Jesus gave the ultimate sacrifice,
Yes.
right? And that his whole life was service.
Amen.
And the goal is to be like him. Obviously, we're never going to be him, but the goal is to be like him. And so, like, every day when your feet hit the ground, who are you serving today?
Absolutely.
And it can't be self.
Yes. Yeah. Well, it can be.
Well,
and we're seeing plenty of evidence today.
Yeah.
But it can't. But if you want to, at the end of the day, and I'm talking about if you're aware as you're passing, do you really want to care about the money in the bank account, or did I work enough overtime, or it's really about how did I affect others, and did I serve those people?
Yeah.
It's simple and sometimes difficult to do because our greed, our self-dependence, if there is such a thing, can get in the way.
So you've always been an avid reader. Have you always enjoyed reading, or did that start at a young age, or is that a journey that you went on? Where did your love for reading come
I
in?
would love to be, I'll be as honest as I can with you. I don't know, but I've had a book in my hand as long as I can remember. So whether it was the Hardy Boys, I remember being on the bus going home from school one day, and a guy wanted a Buffalo nickel I had. And he gave me in trade a Hardy Boy book, and I was tickled to give him the Buffalo nickel, and he was tickled to give me the Hardy Boy book. I still have most of those Hardy Boy books. Whether it was that or Nancy Drew, it didn't matter. I would and still do read food labels at the grocery store. And why? Well, we quickly discovered why we like our vegetables so much, because the first time is generally sugar. And reading helps everything we do.
Yep.
Everything we do. So, yeah, I don't know that I like contract reading, but
I love contract reading.
If we're going to sign it,
You got to read it.
why did I not know it?
Understand the terms.
Get surprised with what you charged or gave away,
I love to read a contract. It's funny you bring that up, and I tell everybody, most do not read the contracts, and they have no idea what they're signing.
Well, generally, and we have harmed ourselves at our own willing ignorance by not reading it.
Yep. Okay, I'm going to move on. Well, we talked about a book. Has there been a book or idea that fundamentally changed how you lead or view the world?
Well, the Bible would be the first, and then a book that is very biblical in its nature, old book. My daughter, Meredith, who you mentioned, was afraid every Christmas when she saw a package underneath the Christmas tree that it might be this book. And eventually it was, but it wasn't every year. She decided that it might have been. But it's Stephen Covey's 7 Habits of Highly Effective People. And it's so biblical in every premise of those 7. I mean, seeking to understand before being understood. I mean, you clip those things through and you look and go, how in the world? So in 1992, Greenfield operation, Klamath Falls, Oregon. And that first winter, Pam and I weren't fledgling rednecks, but we were southern bound. We moved to a community 4,000 feet above sea level. We had 100 inches of snow that first winter, and we didn't have a car wreck. So we get to Klamath, and we have snow, but we also have signs going to our home on the roads to the right said, "Look out for sliding cars." You don't see that a lot in
No.
Tennessee, but you do look out for sliding cars if you want to protect yourself, because once you get started, you can't stop.
Yep.
So before the family got there, in October of '92, I read The 7 Habits of Highly Effective People. It's the first time I've stopped and done what an author said do, and that was to write my own personal mission statement. That mission statement, through the gift of God, written in short sentences, allowed me to set a mission statement that has not changed
Yep.
one iota. It's still the same thing. And if I could get on my knees and beg the audience, you and anyone else, if you haven't written your own mission statement, then how do you know where you're going?
Yep.
And if we don't have a mission statement, aren't we sort of like that ball on the pool table with all the barricades in the middle? Aren't we just, we're waiting for somebody to smack us and go
Yep.
someplace else? If we don't set our mission, then it's not set. Then we let everyone else set our mission. So
One thing
first
I would
time, 7 Habits of Highly Effective People, Stephen Covey.
One thing I would add to that too is, I personally wrote up a mission statement, and I'm married, and so we haven't done it yet. Might be a friendly reminder for me to get my tail in gear, but our family needs a mission statement. Like, I want to know,
Yes.
what are the values that are deeply rooted in this family, and what is our mission as a family. And we haven't done that yet, but just the covenant between Scott and I's marriage, we also need to make sure that we have that North Star too.
Amen.
Yeah. Great book. I agree. You're encouraging me to reread it as I've gone into a leadership role. I got an opportunity, and it's always a great reminder, right? And some of the books that we read, I think you would agree, warrant reading multiple times over, because there's so much depth in there.
Yes.
And if we don't take action on those items, we're
Yes.
missing the point.
Yes.
Yes. I wanted you to talk, because I love this. This is my favorite family thing that I've gotten to go, and I was so honored to be a part of it. Your family surprised you. One of your favorite books is Tuesdays with Maury, right?
Yes.
And for your birthdays, I guess it was your 70th birthday.
A young 70.
Young 70. Your 70th birthday, they surprised you, and they set it up like Tuesdays with Maury. Can you tell us a little bit about that, what that meant to you?
Well, there were tears, and there were things that we had friends that couldn't attend, so we got videos and letters, and then you and many others stood up and said things that were just amazingly heartfelt, and I received all of those and have nurtured on that. Adam, our youngest, and I have fallen in love with Tuesdays with Maury. And one of the things being is, why would we stand at a funeral and say, "I wish I had told them"? Why would we do that when we can now?
Yep.
It's like this running battle that I have with some of the family. I say I love you in text or in word every time we hang up, because that might be the last opportunity. I'm not trying to be morbid, but how many people said it was the last thing I said to them?
Yep.
So I work for two great employers, Badur and Aquaglass Corporation, and they were there very intent on us honoring the people that work there by attending the funerals. And so we did. And every time, Sarah, whether I was at Badur and we were going to a funeral here in Memphis or in rural Tennessee or thereabouts, I didn't have time. I had too many busy things to do. And then I went. And then I came away much ashamed that I'd had that thought, because I became a richer person by listening to their family story and in their grief. And at those, I heard too many times, "I wish I had told them." And if I can get an education with life and I bypass hearing somebody saying, "I wish I had told them," why would I ever hold back good news from someone?
Yeah.
I mean, is there a standard by which I can wish on somebody, hey, it's good news, they're probably here too much, don't tell them? What a lie.
Yeah, everybody needs that right now.
Well, here's another thing that your audience needs to know, and they probably don't practice it, and you may not, but brag on your boss.
Yeah.
And if you want to manage them, brag specifically on the things that you've wished they had done and you see it for the first time. Make sure you're the first in. Make sure you're telling them how great that is. Make sure you're reinforcing that.
Reward the behavior.
Because people that are in charge have their own little, like a tens unit. They'll
Yeah.
just hit it and I'll get charged with, I know that I did it well today. Sorry.
Yep.
We need to hear that too. And I don't care who the most jaundiced, hardened person who's leading a team, business, etc., who says they don't need feedback, they're liars.
Yep.
And they just haven't had good feedback. And sometimes feedback hurts.
It does.
And sometimes feedback that hurts may be the richest I've ever
Yep.
received. But why can't I tell people good things?
Yep.
If I can tell them tough things,
You can tell them good things.
yeah.
Well, I think you have to have both when you're leading people.
Oh, absolutely.
Everybody has a unique gift, right?
Right.
And you have to make sure that you're nurturing their gift. You know, everybody's got development too, right?
Right.
So it's development plus nurturing that gift.
Right.
If you truly want to, I would say, enrich somebody to make them and elevate them, essentially. You know, they've got to be elevated.
Well, I think you
while
can,
also growing.
I think you can do that in tough discipline situations, and I have practiced it when it was appropriate in terminations.
Yeah.
When I had to tell someone their behavior didn't allow them to stay with this business anymore.
Mm-hmm.
And these are things that if you continue to do them at another business, you won't be employed there either.
Yep.
So my encouragement is change this.
Behavior. Yep.
And one of the things I learned from a gentleman long way since past was that capital punishment in business is termination. We have no right to take the ego down of the individual, demean them, be dismissive of them.
Yep.
We're dismissing from work. We're not dismissing them from life.
Yep.
And we're not dismissing them. So in a small town,
Yep.
I fired
It's
the
hard.
second baseman's father one day. Our son was the shortstop. The father of that son, after I terminated, went up in the stands and sat beside my wife. And she later said, I heard you did this today. Why didn't you tell me? I said, well, I couldn't think of anything beneficial from telling you that. And I promised him when he was leaving, he's the one to tell the story. I'm not.
Yep.
Why? Because we've done the action that's necessary. So by her treating him the same way she had always treated him,
Honored him.
allowed him to say, Steve's keeping his word. At least now he's kept his word.
Yep.
She doesn't know.
Yep.
If we can do the little things that don't cost us anything, but if we don't do that, it costs them much. Why wouldn't we do that?
Well, and I think sometimes we don't think it through from that
Oh,
perspective. I mean, I know there's
We're
times
afraid.
I've made some big mistakes, you know, from a fierce conversation doesn't always have to be a bad conversation.
Amen.
It can be a good conversation for me, giving the, you know, delivering that, and it could be, quite frankly, help life, you know, change their life on the other side. And I say this a lot too, because you've got a mission, vision, values, and beliefs for your organization. And sometimes people's missions are mismatched. And it doesn't mean their mission is bad and yours is bad. It just means we're in different boats. I say that all the time. I'm like, it's just alignment, you know?
Amen.
And God's given everybody so many opportunities, and the opportunity may not be in your organization, but it may be in this one, and they may thrive over here.
So I had a conversation with a young man who's bigger and much more fit than I was, and told him that he had so much to offer, and if he changed, he could do incredible things. Went to a local basketball game. It was standing room only. I'm on the corner, and I see him coming towards me. And I'm looking for the back door. There's no door behind me. There's no. I'm not going anywhere. And he comes up to me, and and what I thought was happening was true. He came directly to me to talk to me. And my knees had turned soft about this time. And he said, Steve, and I called his name. And he said, you were right. And I could have fallen right then. But what I had intended, God turned into something good. And he was able to be even stronger from that point on. Because he chose, not that I chose. I just tried to tell him that he could change some things and it would be better for him. In my perspective, in my experience. And he did all that. He did that. I didn't do that.
I think a leader's job is to have that type of care for someone, right? And I hope that somebody does that for me. You know?
Here we are.
All right, let's talk a little bit about leadership at Aquaglass, and I'm going to hit on a few of these, and then, I know you were there for how many years, did you say?
Short 25.
Short 25. Loyalty right there. You spent your majority of career obviously there. What initially attracted you to the company and what kept you there?
The honesty of both Harry Boozy and Louis Sema in their interviewing with me, and I didn't know this until later, but it was late at night. Harry was driving through the community and he was saying, that person works at Aqualast, that person used to, and that person used to. What I didn't know until sometime later, he had terminated those people that he was speaking sweetly about. And that in a small community, you don't have any anonymity. You are on stage almost all the time when you step outside the house. And sometimes that can be cloying.
Yeah.
The other side of that is very much family. So didn't know this then, but my bride had cancer in 2005. To see a community come together, so the plant we had 1,000 people, truck driving, operations and all. And I walked through the plant and said, we just pray for your wife. I don't know how they heard about it, but they did. And that comfort and the support in the community. So what did I see about Aquaglass? And a company that realized that it's social responsibility. Because I believe everything we do is the chain of life, the circle of life. So if we take talent out in the way of the school system or people at work and we don't help support that, then eventually that circle of life that we're drawing from becomes weakened. And Aquaglass did that from a financial perspective and a talent perspective and an encouragement perspective. And whether we were buying new computers for the high school or we were connecting in the mid 80s, early 90s to an online class where somebody could take trigonometry at our local rural school, it was all those things.
Yep.
It was, how do you return what you do to the community? And it was just evidenced everywhere. I mean, the gentleman that I reported directly to, 3-term mayor, while he's doing the VP and GM of a multi-million-dollar corporation that was growing constantly. So you can do a lot of things. It's what you said. We can do a lot of things.
Well, I think that's interesting because in a small town, more leaders have to be more, you have to, there's more things that you have to do as in leadership roles, right? Like there's a limited number of people. Not a lot of people want to be the leader.
Right.
Because I kind of believe that God instills that in people. You can be developed into a leader for sure, but you have to want to lead.
Well, we had a philosophy that we believe very dearly in, not that everybody bought into it, but that every person that worked in that company was important, because otherwise why were we paying them?
Yep.
So don't tell me there's an important job. I haven't found one of those.
Yep.
And that to me is a lie.
Yep.
And it's a lie because you're spending a lot of money in an unimportant job, then quit doing that.
Yep.
Find something else to do, or when you have reduction in force, because somebody leaves, you just don't fill that position again. Move people. But one thing that we believed is that every human being in there was a leader. So if you went through the parking lot and somebody saw you, a senior employee to them, throwing your crap down in the parking lot, so whether it's food, clothing, it didn't matter. That's the way we live.
Yep.
So one day, I had this habit of picking garbage up, was my good friend liked to say. He had 2 hands full of garbage. And there was a guy on the second floor in the office. He said, Steve, don't you know we have people we pay to do that? I said, Mark, you know we're on a profit sharing plan, right?
Yep.
Why would I willingly take money out of that profit sharing plan to pay somebody to pick up the
When
stuff
I can
that
do
I
it
threw
right
down?
here.
Yeah.
Yep.
But I realized something really critical at that point, Sarah, and that was my actions are one thing, but I need to tell people what I'm doing.
Yes.
So if I don't tell him what I'm doing, he looks at me and goes, the goofball, we're paying people to do that. Why does he have to do that? Come on in. Don't get dirty. Don't do that. Don't get your hands, whatever that's in. And so I helped convert somebody.
Yeah.
But I converted myself in that not only do we act, but we clearly communicate what our expectations
Which
are.
I think I've been terrible at that. When just hearing you say that, I actually bent down last night. There was some chips on the ground. They did an agent happy hour, and I had somebody say, "Why are you doing that?" And I should have said, because the expectation around here is that we pitch in together, and no job is too small.
If
I should have said that. I didn't say that.
If we there's a I believe his name was H.L. Moody, a great Christian leader, And he said, I would rather have 1,000 people working than be able to do the work of 1,000 people.
That's
so
amazing.
if we can marshal everybody, which I believe is almost an impossibility,
Yeah.
because we all are different agents and we'll decide our own thing. But let's just say that we're successful with 10%
Yeah.
or 15%. And this day of AI, which I believe is extremely overblown, so sorry if I've stepped on your feet. There's some great things with AI.
Yeah.
But to replace the human contact?
Yeah. It won't. It will. I say this, it upskills so that I can serve more people.
That's it.
And I get out and I get to do more of this. So yeah, it can do all this stuff, but it's never going to replace this.
That's right.
And I love that philosophy. I actually heard that from Randy Boyd, who's over UT medical engineering.
Met Randy.
Yeah. So, and as soon as he said that, I was like, this is the first time this has actually resonated with me. Like, it will allow me to have more relationships and truly be present with people.
Yeah,
this is a really off the wall question, but I'm just really curious. How many employees did y'all have at Aqua Glass?
At peak, we were about 1,100.
Okay.
In that one building. We had more in our other Tennessee plant and the Oregon plant.
Did y'all know the majority of everyone's names?
At one time, not only at Baddour, but at Aqua Glass at one time.
Yeah.
That does not exist right now.
Yeah.
But I could tell you every person's name. I could tell you by their look, and I could tell you if I'd been through their file or had worked with them, bidding through, or I could tell you the jobs they knew how to do. And in many cases, I knew something about their family.
Yep.
And this is a thing that went back to high school when I was offended that somebody didn't remember my name.
I know.
And the Holy Spirit, because that's the only way I can grab this, said to me, just what a two-time person you are. Do you remember everybody's name?
No.
So I went on this mission of saying, and don't we have to have tools? If I learned,
Yes.
There was this great, and I hope that she's not offended if she listens to this, but Cisa Muchistegi I met in Klamath Falls. I love names. And when I can spell your name,
Yep.
I can go through my mental Rolodex.
Yeah.
And I visually find your name if I've
Yeah.
lost it along the way.
Yeah.
Everybody has their trick and their talent and their thing, but it's important. Do I remember names as well as I used to? I do not.
Yeah.
But I still believe it's an incredibly important thing.
I've struggled with it because I've been, and I've told myself this, and what you tell yourself is who you become. I'm terrible with remembering names. And I'm like, why would I not just get on a call with everybody and say, I have a goal to remember everyone's name, but in order for me to do that, I'm going to need your name tags a little bit bigger because I'm struggling to see, but I see you.
Perfect.
And I want to see you. And if you don't mind if I look at that first so that I can start, truly knowing you and then getting to know your family or what's important or inspiring to you, for a leader, for me, I highly desire that. And I think the good leaders out there need to listen to exactly what you're saying, because if you don't know people's names or you don't tell them that you're striving to learn who they are, you're telling them they're going unnoticed.
Well, one of the people that I'm really enamored with is my bride of almost 48 years. And she's been a long-time school teacher, and she believes that God's mission in her life is to teach in public school.
Yep.
And she's still working. I love it because she's happy. But if she had a class of 4, or if she had a class that was repeated 5 times, whatever she did, on the first day, she knew every child's name. On the first day. One of the stories, and I hope that no one's offended, she was teaching at USJ in Jackson, Tennessee. And she came upon a young man named McWhorter, and she said, I'm going to pretend that Ned Ray McWhorter is your granddaddy. Miss Simon, that is my granddaddy, the late governor of the state of Tennessee. And so when you start those connections, you do something that sticks with you for a long time. When Pam had cancer, she had students checking on her. That she was that important. And students that had not been in her class for 15 and 20 years were checking on her. What we do affects other people.
Because they know that she cared enough to know their name.
Yes.
And it is much more powerful than people understand, I think.
You may be too young for Cheers.
I know, I remember Cheers.
Sitcom?
Yeah.
What was the song? I want to go a place
where everyone knows your name.
Everyone knows my name. Don't we all want that? Why can't we repeat
This
it?
is re-inspiring me, so everybody at the office be prepared. Name tags are going to have to be bigger in this season. But I just think it is, I've always said it, and I remember a friend of mine was like, how are you going to remember 440 people's names? Because, I mean, I'm also got independent contractors.
Yeah.
And I'm like, I don't know, but I'll figure it out.
You can. You can.
There's always a way.
Yeah.
Let's talk about reinvention and retirement.
Okay.
So you retired from Aqua Glass, and most people see that as a finish line. You moved into another leadership role. What motivated you to make that decision?
Well, when I left Aqua Glass, I did some consulting, and that's a good gig. I'm not a salesperson, and in order to be a consultant, you have to sell yourself, and that's not what I wanted to do. So I became VP of HR in 2009 with E.S. Robbins in Muscle Shoals, Alabama.
Okay.
And a family that I'd known and actually gone to school with, he and his wife's daughters at the school that I attended in Florence. So I knew of the family, went there, and oh my, did I get another education. It was amazing. We were extruding plastics, we're making chair, desk pads, all kinds of incredible things. And just a completely different environment. He was a genius when it came to designing things that people would want to use. It was amazing. Then from there, was there 2 years, and once again learned so much. And then went to Adamsville City, City of Adamsville, as a city administrator. And that had recently been because of a charter change, and that this person had responsibilities, and the job description was laid out in the charter, and that's pretty rare that you do that kind of thing. So that you see your description written in a politically approved at the city level and at the state level that comes back and you go, oh, that's my job.
Yep.
I don't have to wonder if I know what it is.
Very clear marching orders.
Very clear. Well, I mean, the thing about working with the city is, and the city has multiple services it provides, and whether it's parks and recreation, fire, rescue, water to drink, natural gas to run facilities and homes, sewer to eliminate what caused the Black Plague in Europe, to have ourselves a more sanitary life. And when you have that many things going on, you have opportunities 24 hours a day.
Yep.
And that you need to be on the lookout, you need to be capable of. And I think the most beautiful thing about civil service like that is that you help people that never knew you helped them.
Oh, that's great words of wisdom there. You're right. And you're never going to see that. And you're truly doing it to serve.
That's right. And they're receiving it because they have water to bathe that baby at night, to cook the meal, to give the dog a drink.
That's powerful.
I mean, the amazing things. And I have boiled this down to one little thing. There isn't anything that the city of Adamsville does that's more important than providing drinking water. And you go, oh, no, it's police. No, I have to have water first. It's fire. No, water. Parks and recs. No, sorry. Streets. Water.
Water.
And when we think about that, and I'd have to go back and look at the numbers, but when I was still in that role, I won't ask you to guess, but you can get in your mind what a gallon of water delivered to your house with no container would be. And it was less than 0.6 of a penny. People go, oh, no, it's not going to have.
You're like, no.
It's no, less than a penny. And you think about, and the city of Memphis is one of the lowest priced water utilities in the nation.
Wow.
And one of the purest waters in the nation.
Yep.
And you go, well, I pay so much for that. Well, you can get out of your shower quicker.
Yeah.
You can quit running the water when you're brushing your teeth. But what I learned was service of other people, and particularly with this wonderful lady that worked in the office. And she'd been there for what seemingly was forever. And I don't care what important stuff she was doing. If a senior person came in, if a child, yay.
But I love the you've got to have it on the other side, because my personality likes to give advice. and I need to have advice given back. And
So we were able to look
accountability.
out of our apartment in Klamath Falls, which is 2 stories above the landlord and his wife. We could see into their dining room, and she's on her oxygen, which she started because of her tuberculosis. On their first anniversary, she was in a tuberculosis hospital, separated from him, and they would have a little candle between them, little bitty servings of food. They were in their 80s. He took Adam under his wing. He took all of us. He allowed us to have a cat in our apartment when he didn't allow anybody else. He was amazing. Chet and Marie Hamaker. He broke his hip, and I went to see him in the hospital going, okay, what can I do to lift him up? You know what he's doing when I came in? And he tells me he needed me to stay out in the hall just a minute. He's working on his Spanish lesson.
Really?
He was
Constantly
teaching the immigrant kids
developing.
and their parents that moved in the area that didn't know English. He was teaching them English, but he needed to know enough Spanish to be able to help them. So instead of moaning and complaining about, I can't believe this, and I had my hips broken, and he just went on living life.
Well, he reinvented himself.
Yeah.
I mean, I think that's the key is, are we constantly on a journey of reinventing self? And
Yes.
We are. And so I know we were talking about, and we're back on, but we're talking about retirement and reinventing. Do you ever believe that there really is retirement?
I don't think, first of all, in the Christian life that is ever uttered or the thought of it anywhere in the book or anywhere in the Holy Spirit. So, no, I'm not a believer in retirement at all. And I think there are different points. Right now, church is very important to me and lifting up people there and being connected with. But taking care of my grandchildren has been one of the greatest joys. And I've told kids, I probably don't need to say that on a podcast, it doesn't matter what the sickness is, call me. I'm coming. Give me 2 hours and I'll be either in Franklin or in Memphis, and I'm taking care of them because our window with them is so short.
Short, yeah.
And it every day gets shorter, and particularly when they're preteens and teens and they forget you for 10 years.
Yeah.
You know, you need to have all that built in before.
Precious
and so
time.
How do I do that? But it's just as precious to be with our grown children and their spouses. What joy.
Yeah.
So yeah, the life has changed, and my bride wants to continue to work as she matures, and so I'm currently inventory control for our house. So she puts her hand out to find something and it's not under her hand, I failed. So whether it's food or housing supplies or anything else, I want to be ahead. I don't want to be a hoarder, but I want to be ahead and know that she has something, and that actually provides me great joy.
Yeah.
I like
Well,
that.
you're getting to serve in this season
She
a
did.
different group of people, right? It's just
She
you're
did.
serving. You're
She
serving.
raised 2 children.
Correct.
Education when she could, and got her degree as an older student in a degree major that was different than the one that she started with, and she's amazing. I've got so many. My wife is one of my heroes. She has done so many things in her life that make me and the rest of us that think we work hard ashamed, because she's willing to conquer stuff and never think that she's conquering anything. It's just what we need to do.
Yeah.
That's amazing.
We talked about her on the first podcast. I said she's like the real life Ted Lasso, starting the soccer team.
I wouldn't have thought Ted Lasso to compare with, but okay.
Just make sure this is still
I'll
recording.
have to take that under consideration.
Well,
Sarah.
she just went with it, and I was just like, there she goes. I got to ask this question, and I know we're going to wrap up here in a second, but I really am also curious about this. Being, a leader in the city of Adamsville and also leading, in a corporate organization, which one was harder or more challenging?
The city administrator job.
Okay.
There was a constant roar, whether it was right or wrong, that you were failing me, I pay your wage. And it wasn't just me, it was any city employee. We unfortunately had a period of time that we had one segment of our water system out of work, not providing water for 5 days.
Oh, gosh.
And what I found out is that all sweet old ladies aren't always.
Yeah.
Because they said things about our guys that worked in the water system that the church did not approve of and did not provide them with. It was harsh words.
Yeah.
But you also, in that passion and that sometimes just ugly rancor, you saw what water meant to people.
Yeah.
And so it always gives you a better feeling and understanding of what the importance of your job is.
Yeah.
But it's hard. And what happens in any organization, something that happened 20 years ago where somebody in the city did something wrong or stole money, or they're still remembering that, and you're just as actively doing that, and you're going, can we not get past the past?
Yeah.
You know, and why are we digging that up? So you'd listen, and
Yep.
then you go, what's the problem? How can we fix this? What can we do? And then tell the no as graciously as you can, and keep doing what you're doing. I mean, police officers, they're not poor, but the police officers, how many times they would stop somebody and the person would come running at them. You're going, in a day and time where people are killing police officers, they come running at them and you go, do you not know who I am? And you're going, no.
Yeah.
I don't. Listen, you have some important
I want to
position.
know, and you have something to tell me.
I just know that you were 20 miles an hour over the speed limit in our city. So no, that's why I was asking you to stop just a moment and talk to you. So yeah, it was exciting. Do you have time for me to tell you one incredible? There are so many incredible people that God has put me in touch with, either I worked with, related in the community, etc. There's one lady I met in 1983, a very short lady, a widow. Her husband of 20 years had passed away in a fiery auto accident, and she raised 3 daughters. She did not have her high school degree, and her name is Addie Mae Campbell. And I still think of Addie Mae Campbell today because she's just what we want to be. Perfect? No. But driven and sure about herself. So when he passed, she realized that working in a sewing factory was not going to supply enough. So she decided to go back and get her GED, and she was told by all the people around her, you're not smart enough to do that. Well, she gets her GED. And then she signs up for an AA degree at the technical school to become LPN. And they said, you're not smart enough to do that. Well, she gets her degree. Well, you'll never get a job. And she gets her first job in Henderson, Tennessee at a nursing home. The next job she had where I met her was at Aquaglass Corporation. And once again, not very tall. And boy, a powerful spirit. I've seen her stop 6'5" men in their tracks and tell them what they were going to do and what they weren't going to do as related to their health and their safety and all the things that she was going to do. She could pack her bags in 20 minutes if you had a road trip.
Yeah,
she
ready
was
to go.
ready to go. She was ready to do.
Yeah.
And she constantly told me she was going to retire early because all of her family died almost at retirement. So she would retire as soon as she could, and that she wanted to go on with life. And as she was getting close to that, she said, you know what? I think I want to be mayor of our community. Name Enville. And I said, well, Addie, has there ever been a female mayor? She said, nope. And I said, well, that's good. Well, guess when she retired, who became the next mayor of Enville, Tennessee? Addie Mae Campbell.
Addie Mae.
And so Addie Mae started looking around, as she lived there all of her life, and she said, we need a new post office. And I'm thinking, okay, you probably just leaped too far here. Because the U.S. Postal Service was not building post offices, particularly in rural America, and communities that were growing smaller, not larger. And she was willing to call every senator and every congressman and every local official that she could to let them bend their ear about they needed a post office. Guess what little rural community got a brand spanking new brick post office in their town because she was unwilling to give up.
Relentless.
It was it.
Yep.
We had two gentlemen, unfortunately, one day get caught in a field of fire. They were working on something called an acetone still. And acetone is heavier than air, and they didn't realize, and you couldn't realize, hot day, and acetone will go to the ground in a pool. It's a river of it. The spark hit, and they were in this field of fire. Flesh burning on their arms, plant clearing out because they knew the plant was going to blow up. It wasn't, but people were jumping the back of pickup trucks. They were clearing the plant. She stayed her ground, took care of those guys, got in the emergency room. Emergency room in rural hospitals doesn't often have a physician on staff. They're waiting for orders, so the staff's not waiting for orders. She takes over the emergency room. She gives them care.
Yep.
One day, a gentleman decided he was going to pick up a snake in the plant. She and I raced at high speed to get in the emergency room with the snake in a bag at the passenger wheel in my car as we're getting there. He's dying. She's holding him. We get him. Anyway, life's like that. And she calls me one day and she'd taken somebody to the emergency room and she said, Steve, hey, Addie Mae. She said, you know that thing that hit Ann's arm? I said, yeah, you told me it shed some blood. Somebody probably threw something from the parking lot. She said, it's a bullet. And I go, let me get you to repeat that to me again. It's a bullet. And we found the gentleman. He had been shooting a .22 up in the air and it had started tumbling. She walks out from underneath the porch, and just as she does, and her arms are swinging, pop, and there. This woman was amazing.
Wow.
So one last Addie Mae story. We sprayed high pressure fluids through guns, and you might have 3 lines over your wrist, and you're spraying the resin or the gel coat or whatever. He was a gel coat operator. One of those lines got a pinhole in it, filled his whole hand up with resin, like a balloon. She finds me, she's running, she gets him in the car. I've got a 2-seater up front, and she will not let go of his arm, because if she lets go, that's going to go to his heart. He's going to die.
Oh my
So
gosh.
she's got him tourniqueted with her hand. And so we are driving like mad people, and she just shoves him over. We're all pushed up in that car together, and she saves his life.
Wow.
And he came back to work. There are moments we all get to act. She always did.
She always did.
So when somebody tells you, and particularly a female is told, even 25 and 30 years ago, that you can't do this, or you can't have that job, or you can't do this, you think back to Addie Mae Campbell, you can do what you want to do.
I like Addie Mae. I can tell you that already.
She's amazing. There are more like that, but she's one of those phenomenal ones.
Well, look, may we all be like Addie Mae, and relentless pursuit of service first.
Yes.
And then service leads to impact, and impact leads to an incredible life well lived, right?
Absolutely.
Which you certainly have so many stories, which I would love to have you back on another episode. But for now, I want to hit on some rapid fire really quick, and then we'll wrap up.
Sure.
Best book you've ever read? I think you already mentioned this. What is that?
7 Habits of Highly Effective People.
7 Habits of Highly Effective People.
We're going to give you a second one.
Okay.
It's a long one, but easy.
Okay.
The Borrowed Life of Frederick Fife.
Okay, I've never heard of that one.
The Borrowed Life of Frederick Fife.
You heard that here? Add it on your book list. Late nights or early mornings? Which do you prefer?
Both.
Both?
Yeah.
You don't prefer any type of sleep? How many hours of sleep?
Well, it's since I retired and I don't have 2 phones laying by my bedside, getting 6 or 7 a night's a pretty cool number.
Pretty good.
Yeah.
Favorite family tradition?
Going to the beach at Thanksgiving with everyone in the family in one place.
Fun story about that. Pam, Steve's wife, also brings family pictures and decorates the whole house. And I absolutely love that. And y'all having that tradition. It's Meredith and the kids talk about it all the time.
Right.
One habit you practice for decades?
I'm still working on that. No retirement. I am working on continuing my best listening skills.
Oh, I think you do a great job of that. That is something I need to consistently be reminded of, because I'm a talker and a salesperson, and we're not as good as listening. Favorite karaoke song? We had a karaoke machine here.
The Weight by the band.
The Weight by the band. So we have lots of different karaoke songs. So one night, maybe we'll have a Lyft karaoke night, and maybe in a year, see how successful this thing has gone. It's been a pleasure. Thank you so much. I always love speaking with you. Y'all find yourself a mentor, somebody that you can go break bread with, have coffee. There's a lot of wisdom out there. And if you're not in relationships with people at all different ages, I promise you, you're missing out on a wealth of knowledge. So thank you so much, Steve. I appreciate it. All right, everybody, if this episode resonated with you, I hope you'll share it with somebody in your world. Share. Don't forget to hit the subscribe button. We're on Apple Podcasts and YouTube. I'm your host, Sarah Layson. Step up, serve well, friends.